Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's very nice to be here with you. And I like days like this, mornings like this. I think it's particularly conducive to meditating, being quiet. So this morning, I want to talk about a very important part of the Dharma practice, and that is awareness of the mind, and particularly awareness of what is commonly called mind states or mental states. When we are aware of the mind, initially, what we are aware of first and foremost is thinking. Thinking is always kind of at the surface. So what we want to do today is to go beyond thinking and look at what's the condition of the mind in a broader sense. What's the background? What's the wallpaper, if you will, in the mind? Sort of like the weather. What's the weather report of the mind? So we'll talk about how to do that today and why it's so very important. It's very important because what I'll call mind states or mental states shape our thoughts, shape our intentions, shape our actions. If we're in the mental state of fear, we're likely to think and act in ways very different than if we're in the mental state of peace or anger or joy. So our life kind of springs from this mental state, this mind state. These mind states color our perception. When we're not aware of a mind state, it can be like wearing glasses of various colors. We look at the world and the world looks gray or pink or green or whatever. And most of the time we know that it's the glasses. With the mind state, the same thing happens, only we don't recognize that it's the mind state. We think that's the way it really is. You know, you've had that experience of when you're angry, just absolutely everything pisses you off. Everybody, everything you see and hear. Or if you're sad or lonely, everything feels like something's missing. It's not quite enough. So these mind states color our perception and color the way we live our life, particularly when we're unaware of them. These mind states can last sometimes for long periods of time. Typically they're called moods, or if they're more or less permanent, we call them temperaments. Sometimes it's easier to see in others than it is in ourselves, but we all know people that are always angry, yet if you ask them, they'll say, I'm not angry, or they're always afraid, or they're always sad, and not even aware of it, but everybody around them is aware of it, typically. So we're looking at these mind states. They contain the seeds of awakening. They contain the seeds of suffering. And the Buddha traditionally talked about wholesome mind states. Wholesome mind states contain the seeds of awakening. Unwholesome mind states hold the seeds of suffering and pain. So looking at mind states is a very important and yet kind of subtle way of working with awareness. So let's talk about how to observe a mind state to see what's there. What's the condition, the weather report, if you will, of the mind. One of the first things to do, and this may sound paradoxical, but one of the first things to do is become aware of the body. There's two reasons for this. One is that in reality, the body is the mind. The author Eckhart Tolle says, if you really want to know what's going on in your mind, sense your body. The body will tell you. The body reflects the attitude and the experience of the mind. Particularly what's called the unconscious or the subconscious. The sensations in the body will mirror the attitude of the mind. Sometimes we're not sure of what we're feeling emotionally, mentally. But if we look at the body, we may see our jaw tightened. We may feel our fists and shoulders tight. We may feel ourselves kind of hard set in the face. That's typical of the experience of anger. Sometimes we feel a tightness around the solar plexus. Or when there's fear, there's body feels frozen, sometimes even cold. The eyes will kind of glass over, bulge a little bit. Fear, often we feel in the pit of our stomach, that sinking sense, or the butterflies in the stomach, So the body reflects the mind because in a way it is the mind. And in our culture we make a clear distinction between the two, but in reality there's not that much difference. One's visible and the other one isn't. That's the primary difference. And another good reason to pay attention to the body is that it stabilizes the awareness so that we can then look at the state of the mind without getting lost in it, without getting carried away. If we try to look at the mind from the mind itself, we'll get caught up in the story of the mind, because we're still seeing through those glasses. Sometimes the best way to see the weather is come inside and look out the window. Because when we're caught up in it, sometimes we can't see it. We may find ourselves saying things and doing things we don't even know why or where it's coming from. It's coming from the environment of the mind. So being aware of where we're at mentally, very helpful for many reasons. And so we start with the process of being aware of the body. A metaphor I sometimes use, I find helpful for myself, is if you imagine a small fishing boat out on the ocean, and a storm comes up. And I don't know if you've ever been out of the ocean when a storm comes up, but it's no small thing. And if you're in a small boat, you can be in big trouble. So our mind is kind of like that boat. The conscious mind is the boat, and the unconscious mind is like the ocean. So when emotions arise, when these overwhelming feelings arise, if all we got is this little boat, we're going to get swept up in it. We're going to get dumped. Maybe very dangerous, you see. But just imagine you're now on an aircraft carrier in the ocean, and that same storm arises. You probably very likely not even notice it if you're inside, you see, because you got much more stability in that aircraft carrier than you do on a little fishing boat. So when we're in the body, when we're identified more with the body than the mind, then we're able to observe the mind, experience the mind without getting caught up in it. That's why the breath and then the body, very, very good preliminary practices. And then looking at the thoughts and the content, the background of the mind. So beginning with the body awareness, sensing the body, noticing where there's tension, noticing where there's some blockage, some tightness, some resistance. You know, often it's in the heart, throat, belly, or solar plexus. It's where we feel our emotions mostly. And that's where they're cut off too, is in the throat, the belly, solar plexus. So oftentimes, the first thing we're aware of is the resistance to the feeling. The body will mirror that resistance through tension, tightness of some sort, being present to the body. And the second way, I call it frame it and name it. And what I mean by that is that if we can put a frame around something, so to speak, we can see it a little more clearly. We're less likely to get lost in it if we imagine looking at it through a window pane. And if we can name it, that's helpful too, because giving it a name helps us get a handle on it and get less identified with it. So you probably had that experience where when you suddenly become aware that you're angry or you're sad or you're afraid, you're not angry anymore. You're not afraid anymore, because you're aware of the experience. It's no longer driving you. You see, you're back in the driver's seat rather than tied up in the trunk of the car, so to speak. You see, frame it and name it. Starting with emotions, that's a good place to start. It's really helpful, very helpful, to become what I call at least literate, emotionally literate. There's more emphasis these days on emotional intelligence, and I'm glad to see that. Big part of emotional intelligence is being able to name what we're feeling emotionally. And some folks, and myself included, when I, many years ago, had two feelings, good and bad. That was about as far as I could go. But after a while, we began to become a little more able to make distinctions. And that's really helpful. Begin by naming what I call the basic or primary emotions: fear and anger, sadness and joy. Those are 4 natural emotions. They occur in children, they occur in infants. And then later on, after we're socialized, we may experience guilt and or shame. Those are socialized emotions. Nobody is born feeling guilty. Infants don't feel guilty. Older children can feel guilty, but not newborns. Newborns can feel fear and anger and grief, but not guilt, not shame. When they grow up, they may, very likely, you see, because it's something that's given to us from the outside. It's not innate in our being. So being able to name the feelings and then get a little more nuanced in, like, I feel anger. Well, let's see, is it really anger? No, it feels like it's more like resentment. See, there's a slight difference between anger and resentment. They're much the same in many ways, but they're also very different, you see. Or sadness and loneliness, or fear and anxiety. You see, there are different shades of different qualities of feeling. So having an emotional palette by which you can name the various emotions and feelings. Then there's other mind states besides emotions. Anticipation is a mind state, not an emotion, but anticipation, hopefulness, gratitude, compassion, confusion, craving, aversion. So once you get a name for it, don't stop with the name, but just recognize that the name is kind of a handle. It's a way of framing and getting a handle on the experience, making it a little more objective, kind of getting it out here rather than back here where you can't see it. I remember when I was on the wrestling team in high school, my coach would tell me over and over again, don't let your opponent get behind you. If you do, you're in trouble. Keep them out here. Keep them out here where you see them. And that's a good teaching regarding emotions and mind states as well. Keep them out here where you can see them. Otherwise, we tend to, they get us by the neck and will control us. We're not sure why. We don't know why. Using metaphors. I think the weather's a great metaphor. What's the weather report in your mind right now? If you were a weatherman or a weather person, what's the report? Sometimes I will say to people too, if you could paint a picture, if you paint a painting, you got a canvas and you want to paint a painting that represents your state of mind or your emotion right now, what would that be? Would it be a Jackson Pollock mishmash of whatever? Or would it be something clear, spare, focused, or something very busy? A war? Or something tragic? Whatever, you see. These are ways of identifying the experience of the mind. When we look at the mind in terms of the weather, we see that the thoughts are a little bit like the wind. You know, the wind's always blowing somewhat. The mind's always thinking somewhat. Just notice which way the wind's blowing. And the mental states are more like the weather, the current weather report. Our mood is somewhat like the seasons. You know, we have the winter of our mind and heart. We have the summer of our mind and heart. We have spring, autumn. These are all metaphors that can be helpful in helping us get a handle on what's going on. Regarding mind states, there's really two types of Dharma practice. The one that I address most often, have talked about up till now, is that of mindfulness, just simply being aware of the mind, not trying to change it in any way. Just notice what's there. I mean, the awareness itself will bring about changes, but those changes happen organically. We're not consciously trying to change the mind states. The other type of Dharma practice is that of cultivating wholesome mind states. And that we do, sometimes they're referred to as the heart practices. The Brahma Viharas are practicing cultivating certain mind states. You know, we do metta, we do karuna, we do different heart practices each morning, each Sunday morning, the service. And that's a practice not so much of awareness as it is cultivation. So that's another practice in and of itself, is to notice the mind state. If it's an unwholesome mind state, if it contains the seeds of craving and aversion, delusion, then see if you can cultivate a wholesome mind state, like metta or karuna or mudita, you know, joy or compassion, equanimity. And we can do that. There's formal practices, and sometimes we can do it just by focusing on love. Think about things that you love, people you love. Our gratitude's a wonderful practice as well. But that's a different practice than the mindfulness practice. So one is cultivating positive, wholesome mind states. The other is simply being aware. The awareness practice creates or brings out the quality of wisdom from the essential mind. The cultivation practices cultivate the qualities of compassion. And wisdom and compassion are the two polarities, we might say, the two polarities of the awakened mind. Wisdom and compassion. The great Indian teacher Nisargadatta Maharaj, who died recently, he said, "Love tells me I am everything. Wisdom tells me I'm nothing. Between those two, my life unfolds. Wisdom says I'm nothing. Love tells me I'm everything." And this is the polarity through which our life unfolds, the father, mother, if you will, of the Dharma, the masculine, the feminine. So one way that we can integrate the practice, I found, in a way, integrate both the cultivation and the awareness, is to practice awareness with the intention of benefiting all beings. So that I'm doing my mindfulness practice with the intention of cultivating wisdom, compassion for my own awakening, but instead of cultivating it for my own awakening, I do it with the intention for the service of all human beings. And very often, I will sit, before I sit down, I say, may I dedicate this meditation, this Dharma Talk, this activity for the welfare of all beings everywhere. And so I'll close by sharing with you a prayer we use to end my Thursday night Sangha. Thursday night Sangha is online Sangha. But we always have somebody repeat these words, which is our closing prayer. Through the power of our practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May our practice be a benefit to all beings everywhere. Thank you for sharing your practice. Thank you for your presence. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings be awakened.